I want to welcome everyone to this session. We will hear from our 6 scaling sites to learn about the successes and challenges of their work. Over the past 3 years, we have seen a commitment to building and sustaining collaborations between system and institutional teams, advancing dev ed reform as an integrated cornerstone of broader student success strategies, attention to improving equitable outcomes, and a mindfulness that we need to continually improve ourselves to better serve our students. A year ago, everyone on this panel could have talked for at least an hour about their projects. Now, after the last year of unprecedented change, they could probably talk for more than a week. Today, though, we only have a brief window, so we've asked each of these site leaders to reflect on some key questions. What is a goal that you have achieved through the support of Strong Start to Finish? How did you achieve success? And what were your challenges? And most importantly, what did you learn? Now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague and friend, Mari Watanabe Rose at CUNY to start the session.
Thank you, Emily. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you are. I'm Mari Watanabe Rose, Director of Undergraduate Education Initiatives and Research at CUNY Central Office of Academic Affairs. At CUNY Central, I work with 5 brilliant colleagues to lead our Strong Start to Finish project. They are Donna Lindemann, Lucinda Zhou, G. Michael Guy, Sarah Trush, and Andy Rojas. CUNY has 25 institutions across New York City, of which 10 are associate degree granting colleges, and they are our Strong Start to Finish participating colleges. So let me start with goal and success. CUNY's Strong Start to Finish goal has been to scale up co-requisite remediation in math and English at these 10 colleges. In the last few years, several of these colleges succeeded in fully scaling co-rec in one or both of the subjects. Just comparing for 19 and for 20 cohorts, the number of non-proficient students enrolled in co-rec in math and English increased by 12 and 18 percentage points, respectively. So these demonstrate to a wide range of stakeholders and other CUNY colleagues that our remediation reforms are actually making great progress, and their hard work has been showing in numbers. And this is very important. Everyone wants to know and deserves to know the results of their hard work. So we now have the university-wide goal of completely eliminating traditional zero-credit remediation by 422, and Strong Start to Finish project was definitely instrumental for this goal setting. And the project has also allowed us to clearly see and to show to our colleagues that a reform endeavor is part of a large national movement, not just something small CUNY is doing. So co-rec is becoming a norm, not just quite there yet, but slowly but surely it's becoming a household name, not just on a university leadership level, but on a deeper level among campuses, staff, and faculty. So moving on to challenge and learning. So I mentioned earlier that we have a fantastic team, leadership team, and we have provided the colleges with various supports, not just funding, but also information, relevant data, and so on. And one challenge is for us to ensure that the communication go both ways between us and the colleges, because unfortunately, lots of things we do, lots of things we say, they're often perceived as top-down. So balancing between showing the campuses best practices and clear directions based on them, and listening to and understanding their struggles and challenges and needs, as well as recognizing their strengths and accomplishments and successes. It's been important and challenging. Of course, creating and maintaining collaborative relationships, it's very important, not just for this project, but beyond this, larger goals and long-term goals. As far as learning goes, we have come to appreciate all the work that goes into implementing co-rec on campuses. During the pre-Strong Start to Finish period, or even at the beginning, our primary focus was how to communicate to faculty this new and innovative method. But now we all know that that's necessary, but not sufficient. So throughout the project, we have learned how to better communicate with the entire campus communities and how to differentiate those communications with different constituents. Now let me hand it over to Mike Leach from Arkansas.
So good afternoon, everyone. Mike Leach with Arkansas Community Colleges, known as ACC. ACC is the association for all 22 community colleges in the state of Arkansas. And we have partnered with the Arkansas Division of Higher Education to manage the Strong Start to Finish work here in Arkansas. And so the scaling goal that we are most proud of is that we have involved all 32 of our public 2-year and 4-year colleges in the Strong Start to Finish reform work. And so when we talk about Strong Start to Finish Arkansas, there's 3 reforms that we're working on. Of course, it's co-requisite supports in math and English, but it's also math pathways, and then it's also multiple measures for placement. And so we talk about our work as a comprehensive gateway course completion strategy. And so the other goal that we've had that's relevant to the co-rec in particular is that we are striving for 75% of our underprepared students in math and English to be in co-rec supports. And you can see the bar chart there on the slide. In terms of all students across the state, in English, we're at 60.5, 55%. And then you can see the 4-year and the 2-year breakdown. With our 4-year public institutions, they're almost at the goal of 75%. And then of course, our 2-year schools have a little bit more work to do. And so that bar chart and those enrollment numbers represent a 27% increase in math and a 34% increase in English co-rec enrollment. And that's only in 3 semesters that we've been involved in the Strong Start to Finish work. So we're very proud of that. We're not at our goal yet, but we're making great progress. And in terms of how did we get there, which was one of the questions we were asked to talk about, broad faculty engagement has been key for us. And so has continuous professional development for faculty and staff. I can't tell you how many trainings and professional development activities we've had to support our faculty and staff in doing this work. And so some of the challenges for us have been, know-how. I mean, faculty were resistant to this work initially because I think they felt not prepared to do it. And so all the professional development that we've provided has provided the know-how for them to feel more comfortable and engage in the work. We have staffing issues, particularly at the 2-year college level in terms of, faculty that used to teach standalone developmental courses can't teach co-rec sometimes in the college course that's involved in that. And then, we have skepticism that co-rec won't work for all students. And we're still trying to sort of deal with that challenge and push our institutions to not only hit that 75% goal, but strive for 100% enrollment in co-rec eventually. And then, we have a culture issue here, like probably every other state does. I mean, higher ed is resistant to change. It's part of the culture, and we're battling that constantly as one of our challenges. And so what we've learned from all this to this point is that patience is required. If you're going to change culture, you've got to be patient and let that happen. The other thing that we've really learned is that, creating this broad community of faculty and staff at all of our public institutions working together has really created a powerful learning community that's got momentum of its own. It's bringing along the skeptics. It's supporting everyone to do the work together, and it's just proved to be a powerful vehicle for the work that we've done. And so we're thinking about using this vehicle of Strong Start to Finish Arkansas to introduce other reforms to our institutions. Gateway course completion is just one part of the student experience, and so there's many other reforms that we could bring to our institutions under the Strong Start to Finish Arkansas banner and hopefully improve the student experience throughout. So that's Arkansas's work. I'm going to pass it on to Johanna at SUNY.
Just want to check in and make sure that Johanna was able to join us. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty this morning.
So I gave my welcome, but I was on mute. So
Wonderful.
anyway,
Well,
sorry. All right, I'm ready if you are.
absolutely.
So my apologies. And I just wanted to say thank you and hello to everyone. My name is Johanna Duncan Poitier. I'm the Senior Vice Chancellor for Community Colleges and the Education Pipeline at the State University of New York, SUNY. And it is my honor to respond to the 4 questions identified and to express my gratitude on behalf of the entire SUNY team for the tremendous support we have received as a result of being a part of the Strong Start to Finish network and the generous funding that has made this support possible. And I speak on behalf of my colleagues, Alma Connick Franco, Jill Lansing, and Jennifer Miller. Big thank you. Our goal, our number 1 goal that we identified at the very beginning is that all of our 38 Strong Start to Finish colleges would implement one or more of the core principles of remediation. We believe that those principles are critical to true transformational leadership at scale. Our goal was not to deliver another program or even a series of programs that impact hundreds of students, but rather a system of reform that is sustainable over time and would impact the success of tens of thousands of students. And as I say thank you, I say thank goodness that we started this work before the pandemic, because it could never have been more important than it has been over this last year. We are pleased to report that as of today, all of our 38 SUNY participating campuses are implementing one or more of the core principles. And that translates for our campuses into everyone is using multiple measures. And of course, you've heard more about that. Research-based, getting students placed properly in the first place. That are 28 of our campuses are offering math pathways, 27 of our campuses are offering co-requisite English, and 18 are offering guided pathways. And that is impacting well over 1,000 students. How do we achieve these successes? Well, it's similar to what my colleagues have done. We are absolutely committed to professional development, bringing our colleagues in at the beginning, not at the end, faculty engagement, campus engagement, also putting in place a system that is understood. So that's not only coaching, but it's also more than 60 workshops that we had with over 3,000 attendees. When I mention faculty involvement, it's important to say that those workshops and professional development sessions, those were led not only by experts from the field, but we were able to have our partners, CCRC, MDRC, JFF, ECS, Carnegie, and so many others, bring experts from all around the country so that we could learn from one another. But we invested in the people who are invested in the students who have to succeed. We had a system-wide guidance for support. So not only at the beginning, making sure that students are placed in the right places, but during the pandemic, when placement testing went away, we were so well positioned to have placement not only for students during the pandemic, but now we're able to look at higher levels of placement going forward. We're starting to see some real results. Fewer students are in English remediation by the tune of 9,000 students, 7.5 thousand in math, and our graduation rates are up. And the one I'm proudest of is our 2-year graduation rate, because that's almost always the toughest one, which for us has gone up by nearly 7%. We have developed a system-wide culture of reform, not another new thing, not another new strategy, but a culture of reform where everyone is committed to really making a difference for our students. And for the sake of time, I'll move to the next 2 questions, which are, what are our challenges and what did we learn? And I will say that they go together hand in hand, because as our challenges came about, we learned a very new way of doing things. And so I would say the big piece is a plan for sustainability and longer term placement for students that have an equitable placement, especially using data that for us was pre-pandemic. Now, especially for students of color, low-income students, and non-traditional students, especially working adults, we have to make sure that our placement system is strong. What did we learn? We learned that case making never ends. When we began this work, we worked with all of our leadership and faculty and our stakeholders, and we talked about how important this was, and we looked at the data. But what we realized is that the case making has to continue for a long time. There's turnover, things change, and folks have to be reminded of how important this is for student success and for long-term sustainable results. Reform takes time. My colleague just mentioned that. We all want things to happen immediately, and many of my colleagues want things to happen yesterday. It takes time to do this right. And we are learning that it is important to communicate the connections between our student success strategies and the need for a strong start to finish colleges to align them strategically. And what I mean by that is we'll have several different initiatives, but all of those initiatives together are what make the culture of reform. And so we've changed the way we have had our professional development series, where we used to have, a professional development for math pathways or professional development for guided pathways, or we bring everyone together so that it's not, again, about a program, but it's really about the whole campus. And last but not least, I will just say that we've learned that contingency planning and execution are critical. During the pandemic, when we had to pivot on a dime, we, prior to that, had folks coming to sessions at hotels or on our campuses. We had a lot of our professional development there. But then, at a moment's notice, everything went remote, and we had students that were in greater need than really ever before. But because of the work that was made possible through the Strong Start to Finish network, we were able to pick up where we left off. Those network systems were now remote. And I was surprised to say that we wound up with more people engaged than ever before. So I will just say on behalf of the team, again, thank you so very much for all that the network has done for us. And we, of course, are learning from our other colleagues in the network. And it's been very rewarding. So thank you.
Johanna, thanks so much. It was great to hear from you about the work that's been happening there in SUNY. And so my name is Tristan Denley. I'm Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at the University System of Georgia. And happy to tell you about the Strong Start to Finish work that we've been doing there in Georgia. The university system comprises the 26 public universities and colleges in the state of Georgia, about 350,000 students all told at those 26 institutions. And they range from completely open access institutions, our state colleges, all the way across to schools like the University of Georgia and Georgia Tech, our flagship institutions, and everything in between. So really the basic goal of the work in Georgia over the Strong Start to Finish project has been to fully implement what we call the momentum year strategies. So we did a lot of data analysis to find what are the root causes in our system for the kind of disparity of outcome that the Strong Start to Finish is really all about trying to remove. And what we found, it wasn't just one single thing, it was a whole confluence of different things. And so we set about working with our campuses to implement all of those strategies: purposeful choice, academic mindset strategies, fully implementing guided pathways, changing the way in which we do advising, changing the structure of those pathways, and also fundamentally changing the way in which we work with schools around math and English, implementing math pathways completely, working with our campuses to implement multiple measures, and of course, fully scaling co-requisite remediation. So that's the idea, and working with those 26 campuses, not to just use that as kind of a menu and pick and choose which of those pieces they would like to do, but instead to do all of those strategies together as a coherent confluence of strategies. We know that that's the key. So what I'm happy to tell you is that we have indeed done that, as of fall 2019, we did in fact fully implement all of that work across all 26 of our campuses for all 350,000 students. We did fully scale co-requisite for both math and English, and that work has influenced more than has affected more than 30,000 students over the last 2 full academic years. Of course, when we implemented that co-requisite fully, we have seen exactly the kinds of increases in math and English success that we would have hoped based on all of the data and research that went into co-requisite before we fully implemented. So sure enough, we've seen success rates in math more than double, success rates in English almost double, and that's true for students all across the preparation spectrum, not only for those students just kind of right there on the cusp, but all the way down even to impact the students who come in the most weakly prepared. Of course, as we've said, it's more than just simply enabling students to be successful in math and English. We are about trying to enable students to graduate. And so I'm very happy to tell you that, that the Strong Start to Finish work has already impacted our 4-year graduation rate. That's increased by more than 14% system-wide. Again, not just limited to particular institutions, but all the way from our state colleges, all the way through to our most selective institutions, all have seen very significant increases, all in the ballpark of that 14% range. And also, again, this work was really to try to remove the kinds of disparities of outcome that we've seen across our system, across the nation over in the past. So very happy to tell you that while our graduation rates overall have increased by 14%, actually our graduation rates for African American students have increased by almost twice that. And so again, we're absolutely seeing the impact of this work. Yes, so what are the challenges then? Well, so first of all, of course, none of this could have happened in a sort of a one-size-fits-all kind of approach. And so this was about working with leadership teams on every campus to understand what does the momentum year look like from the different kinds of cultural context that those different campuses try to serve, and try to understand how it is we can work with each of those campuses then to really implement that full that full holistic set of strategies. What we've realized along the way is, yeah, it was important to do all of the work that we did, but it's only the beginning of the work. And so we now have pivoted from the momentum year, which was all about trying to implement those root causes of disparity or eliminate those root causes of disparity in the first year. So now a much fuller understanding of what we call the momentum approach, which involves strategies in financial aid and residence life and just all across the whole of the student experience. Right now, actually, over this 2-week period, we are having what we call our Momentum Summit, where we have about 1,000 faculty and staff from across our campuses who are all involved in understanding exactly how this momentum approach impacts the ways in which they will do business. So yeah, huge thanks to the Strong Start to Finish team for all of the ways in which they've helped us to implement all of this, but also very proud to talk about the successes that have been achieved by our faculty and staff. And with that, I'm happy to hand over to Tom in Ohio. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tom Sudkamp, Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at the Ohio Department of Higher Education. I do have to say, Tristan's a darn hard act to follow, but following up on that, the Ohio Strong Start to Finish project, it's a collaboration of the Ohio Department of Higher Education, the Ohio Association of Community Colleges, and the Inter-University Council, which is the organization of Ohio public universities. And most importantly, there are 30 public community colleges and universities that have joined us on this endeavor. The participating institutions provide a wide variety. We have rural community colleges. 6 of our members in the collaboration have fewer than 3,000 students, up to large urban universities. 3 of ours has over 40,000 students. So again, thinking of, as was mentioned, having to align the strategies and the needs of each individual institution with the overall goals of the project. Each of these institutions, as I mentioned, are varying in size, but also varying missions and student demographics. When joining the Strong Start to Finish project, each institution signed on to 3 goals: that all majors have clear pathways with an appropriate mathematics gateway course associated with the pathway. That all institutions provide holistic advising and academic support for students, and that the institutions adopt some model of co-requisite remediation. And again, as we've heard from other sites, with the vast differences of the institutions, it's working with each one individually to determine what meets their needs, what meets their culture and their capabilities. Proud to say that significant progress has been made on all of these goals, but there's still a considerable amount of work to do, and we'll see that with some of the successes. The completion of math, English, and gateway courses, the key measure for us, the Strong Start to Finish project, increased from 33% of our students in 2017 to 55% in 2019. That's, again, a precursor for moving on the type of progress we'd like to see. Students in the developmental courses decreased significantly, 49% fewer students in standalone developmental courses. But that also points out we've got a long way to go, as others pointed, to get that number significantly reduced, and ideally it would be 0. And sustainability is a key component. And in Ohio, every public institution is required to provide a campus completion plan biennially to the state, outlining their success strategies and getting developmental education reform as part of that success plan that was included in this year's, and it will be continuing. So each institution will be asked to say, how are you continuing? How are you doing in the implementation of the core ideas of remediation? Okay, so with that, what are the challenges? Well, I've already hinted at some of them. The 30 institutions are across the board in mission and their students and their demographics. And they're also autonomous. The Department of Higher Education is a kind of coordinating agency, not a governing body, which means we work with everyone individually, and we count on a coalition of the willing to help lead the way. Something that's been touched on in several of the other presentations is fixed mindsets. And that's sincere belief of faculty, of advisors, that students are not ready to to be enrolled in a 4-credit class, regardless of the amount of data, nationwide, other states, within our own state. This is a very, inertia is a strong force. Understanding, working with faculty to change that mindset is critical for success in moving forward in developmental education reform. That leads over to the learning component. Data is not enough. There's no shortage of data that points out the benefits of every one of these goals of the adoption of co-requisite remediation, of the necessity and benefit of wraparound advising and academic support. But as we provide the data, there still is the skepticism, and combining data with working with peers. Peer strategy sharing is really critical. It was mentioned, I think Mike Leach had mentioned, and Johanna, about bringing people together. The learning network convenings across the state brought people from all 30 institutions. And the highlight of all of that was meeting with each other, being able to ask about how you're moving forward, what obstacles have you had, and how were those challenges overcome. It really is a statewide network working to move forward. Financial support and incentives are beneficial. We were able to provide support to the institutions, and to that, a great big thanks to the funders. This helped when obstacles were identified, the institutions could use that support, whether it be professional development, whether it be curriculum development, whatever was unique to them, to be able to overcome, or at least develop a strategy to overcome those obstacles. And finally, statewide, the Department of Higher Education and the organizations, the Organization of Community Colleges and of four-year universities, their sponsorship and the Strong Start to Finish sponsorship is truly empowering. What it does is it gives the champions on the campus a platform to stand on. I think we've heard it from one of the other people. This isn't us. This isn't simply what we think is good. This is a national movement. This is supported by all of our institutions, and we're working within our campus to implement it. So I'd say there is, with the thanks, great thanks to the funders, significant progress has been made, and look forward to continuing the sustainability of these projects and these results through the years. And with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Stacy Fisher from the California Community Colleges.
Thank you so much. I'm Stacy Fisher. I'm with the Foundation for California Community Colleges, and we are the official auxiliary organization to the California Community Colleges Chancellor's Office, and we are their partner on the Strong Start to Finish work. It's probably important for me to start with sort of California's unique circumstances coming into this project. In 2017, we had legislation passed requiring multiple measures to be implemented by fall of 2019. According to the law, colleges were no longer allowed to use standardized tests, and colleges could only place students in developmental ed courses if they could provide evidence that students were highly unlikely to succeed without that, which is a very high bar to reach. Otherwise, colleges were given very broad leeway as to how they implemented multiple measures in developmental ed reform. Because California is a system of 116 colleges, 2.1 million students, and over 90,000 staff and faculty, and we exist in a decentralized system. So really our goal here was to provide support to the colleges as they're implementing the law, while messaging the priorities and the goals of the system office. So what was our success? First, we started with regional convenings in the fall of 2019 to hear from colleges about the successes and barriers that they had in the first semester of full implementation of the law. And then after that, we worked with the specific content providers to build what we call our equitable placement toolkit. This toolkit includes many resources, but just to provide you with some examples, one of the focuses, or the foci of the Chancellor's Office is for the colleges to not think of AB 705 implementation and dev ed reform as a one and done, let's just check the box, but more as a continuous improvement cycle. And so one of the things that we provided in the toolkit was the explanation of what a continuous improvement cycle is. And it includes examples of tasks and activities and questions that colleges might ask themselves at various points in their continuous improvement cycle. We included an annotated model of a guided and self-placement process for colleges. And we also included a tool that helps colleges determine what types of concurrent supports are best suited for specific colleges, contexts, and cultures. What were the challenges here? The challenge was, the first thing we did before we started even this process was we did a landscape analysis of the resources that were available for developmental ed reform advocates, both nationally and in California. And what we found is that there was a lot of case making and not a lot of tools that colleges could just pick up and use that were concrete and actionable, but also flexible enough for the variety of contexts that colleges find themselves in. And so, we really needed to figure out how to identify that, as well as getting all the colleges to think about the continuous improvement process rather than just applying and going along with the law as it was initially implemented. In the course of this process, we learned a lot of things, but one of the most important is that we need to balance what needs to be done with the needs and concerns of the field. I think a lot of people have already mentioned that case making is continuous. throughout the process because of turnover and just because of a fixed mindset that people have. It's hard to accept that what you've been doing for your career and your attempt to help students maybe hasn't been helping them and has been holding them back. So I think case making is critical. But it's also hard to come by concrete tools that are attractive to individual colleges. And as I mentioned previously, materials that are both actionable and flexible. And we have to admit, we're going through our own continuous improvement process with this toolkit that's been made available to the colleges. Because we want to make sure that we look at feedback and make sure that we're providing resources that are important to people at all stages of implementation. We do have some early implementers that started quite early and probably won't use the toolkit much, but maybe need to look at the continuous improvement cycle. And then we have colleges that are really at the beginning of the process and need to be thinking about, how might we implement guided self-placement, for instance? How do we collect student self-reporting of GPA? So those are really the most important lessons that we learned, although I will highlight that we've learned a lot of the other lessons that people have identified as well. So thank you. And that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing a small part of your journey with us and setting the stage for that future discussion.